Welcome everybody to the Spring 2023 OLLI Open House. For those who are new to OLLI at BCC, we are an Osher Lifelong Learning Institute here at Berkshire Community College. We're a community of people committed to learning and having fun in community. We have over 1,450 members and are the largest lifelong learning program in Massachusetts. We offer 5 semesters of peer-led courses each year taught by volunteer instructors, and additionally offer scores of events, speakers, and programs to connect the members of our OLLI community with each other and the world. All of our programs are volunteer driven, and I am grateful for all of our volunteers who make this program run. I am Carol Allman-Morton, the Executive Director here at OLLI at BCC, and I'm so glad to be part of this community. Our spring semester begins April 10th. Due to holidays and courses with slightly different numbers of weeks, be sure to check the schedule for your courses as we go along in case you might be traveling or have other things going on. Classes are between 4 and 6 sessions. Courses will be a mix of in-person, online, and hybrid or high flex with an in-person and online option. Thank you to our instructors for your expertise and care in leading these courses. I'm going to put in the chat a link so that you can learn more and register. Wait, maybe somebody else is, nope, sorry. I was doing so well at just cruising right through this, and here we are. Okay, sorry, one second. Great, there we go. There's the links to see our courses so you can follow along as we go. And when you're ready to register, that's where you're gonna sign up. In addition to courses, we have a number of special interest groups that our members are welcome to join. And these are detailed on our SIG special interest group webpage. And they have anything from meetings, gatherings, doing stuff together like activities, and also some do have lectures and programs. We have a number of events coming up in the next few months that I want to highlight. First, the OLLI Distinguished Speaker Series presents Dr. Mary Clark, Professor of History at Western New England University. Her lecture is titled Exploring the Culture of Spain. That is Wednesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And here is the link to register for that. Another Distinguished Speaker Series lecture presents Dr. Robert Gruber, Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Springfield College. And his lecture is titled The Ethics of Collective Action. That is Tuesday, April 11th at 7 p.m., also on Zoom. We had a workshop run just yesterday with Peter Gibb, who led a workshop called Mindful Conversation, a Practice for Life, presented by Peter Gibb. And he has added an additional session for that workshop because it sold out in 12 hours, which was wild. So that will be Wednesday, March 29th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That is offered on Zoom, and there is still room if you would like to attend. All right, and then finally, to save the dates. These don't have links yet. The first is a program that will be, and these are both free and open to the public. The first is Changing Lives in Morocco, Clubbed Feet and Education for Girls with Dr. Pure Boutin, discussing her book, The Little Mo Effect. She'll be in conversation with her daughter, a high school student at the Emma Willard School, who was born in Morocco. That will be both in person and live streaming on Zoom, Wednesday, April 26th at 7 p.m. And then also the Mona Sherman Memorial Lecture Series. This year, the lecturer is Ari Melber, and that will be Saturday, May 27th at 5 p.m. In person at the Mahawi Theater and recorded, we hope live streamed, but if not, it will be posted online shortly after. Ari Melber is an Emmy award-winning journalist, evening news anchor, writer, and attorney. He anchors The Beat with Ari Melber on MSNBC and serves as the network's chief legal correspondent. He's a legal analyst for NBC News, and that registration will open later in April. But what you're here for today is to learn more about what our wonderful instructors have in store for us for the spring semester. So I'm going to invite them to share a brief introduction to their courses and help you get excited for what you're going to sign up for this semester. If you have questions for instructors or staff as we go along, you're welcome to add them to the chat. And one last time, again, in case you need the listing of courses as we go, that's the link. Okay, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn Sievers, our first instructor to speak today.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be joining you. the Berkshire LLI. I'm new to the organization, but the course that I'm going to be teaching is Successful Aging and how to empower yourself as you age to live the life that you choose instead of a life that is imposed upon you. There's a lot of things that we can do to ensure that we have a good, successful aging experience, and we're going to go through it step by step. We go through health and wellness, medical, legal, your support and availability and universal design, as well as document decluttering, and also legacy and burial wishes, as well as financial resources. So there's a whole bunch we'll cover in the course. I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go to Len Tabbs.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I hope we have some new OLLI members here. OLLI's headlines have been around a long time. It's given for every semester, all 5 of them. And I've been doing this since, I guess, 2008. So I would call myself a long tenured professor. What is OLLI? I just want you to know that, headlines, probably 50 to 60 people or members show up for OLLI each week or in headlines. And so that represents somewhere, if I use the numbers, somewhere 4 or 5% of our membership pretty much enjoys headlines. We do it only by Zoom. And I would say to you that we have a national audience. We have OLLI members as far as Hawaii, California, that sign in every week. Again, it's only by Zoom. It gives you a chance to discuss today's politics, and certainly everyone that's a political junkie or listens to the news, certainly you would have something to offer, at the same time something to hear and you want to discuss. We also discuss social issues. We really discuss any topic you want to. Matter of fact, if you have marital issues or problems with relatives, you could bring that up and we can talk about that too. It gives people a chance to listen, people a chance to unload, people a chance to just connect with the outside world in a Zoom environment that I think is healthy for everything. Again, we talk about the state of the world, foreign policy. We look forward to new members. We look forward to members of all political persuasions, because that makes for a better discussion. And quite honestly, we probably have too many that are of one persuasion against another. So to everyone who are political junkies, everyone who reads a newspaper, everyone who listens to television, or everyone that gets their news, however, again, you'll meet 60 of the brightest minds, 60 of people that like to talk. And again, we're here to listen to what you have to say. Again, this is a Zoom environment, and you'll find it very interesting. So I hope you, anyone who hasn't been in headlines before, I certainly hope that you join. We all are welcome, and we look forward to new people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenny.
Carol,
Yes.
Carolyn, I forgot to mention that my course is a Zoom course.
Oh,
So
no
my
worries.
apologies to everybody, but it's via Zoom, and we do have an interactive section. Thank you.
Great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, going first is hard because you think of things later. All right, Michael Forbes Wilcox, the floor is yours.
Thank you. In this course that I am teaching this semester, we will celebrate the ancient and sophisticated Algonquian culture, which is indigenous to this area. And although I will focus on the indigenous peoples of the Northeast, similar cultures exist all across northern North America. And related languages, related to the ones that were indigenous to this particular area, these related languages account for nearly 80% of all the languages that are spoken in North America. So in addition to learning, I hope, quite a bit about the local culture, you can extend that to other regions across the continent. This is will be an online course, and it'll be a Zoom meeting, not a webinar, in other words, so that you will be able to interact with people in the class and with the instructor, and we will have fun. We'll be analyzing the meanings of local place names, for example, such as Housatonic, Taconic, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, all of which come from Algonquian words. You actually may be surprised at how many Algonquian words you already know. For example, do you know the Algonquian word for moose? Yes, that's right, it's moose. And that is one of the many, many words that the colonial culture borrowed from the natives. I will talk about words that reveal aspects of the culture, such as those that detail kinship ties. You won't be required to remember these words. That's not the point of the course. I'm not teaching the language. I'm only using examples to shed light on the belief system and the practices of the people who are native to this region. Along the way, we will also discuss the long and unfortunate history of cultural suppression and how that has changed, fortunately, in recent years. Amazingly, many native languages and practices survived those centuries of attempted suppression and are now being revitalized with the active encouragement of the federal government. So I hope that in the course of our discussions, you will experience a few light bulbs that will go on and come up with some ideas about ways that we could improve our dominant culture. There is much wisdom in the ancient ways, and we can all benefit from learning about it. So please join me in this exploration beginning on April 10th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Christine, would it be okay with you if Gloria popped in before your time, because she has to boogie to another thing? Okay, great.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to go to Gloria. Great.
Bonjour, bienvenue. So happy to be here. I have worked with Osher for many years, working at Dartmouth, as well as, and so this time, because of Zoom, I'm happy to offer my class to many people like yourself in different places. And I'm hoping even this summer, I might even be able to come out in person and do some week intensive for all those Francophiles out there. But don't be alerted that it's not your high school French. There's no textbooks. You don't have to feel like you have to do all your grammar. It's all about, having fun, thinking about all the things that you want to say in French, or make it interactive, make it fun. Don't have to worry. So we help you practice some dialogues, and you can read it, you can hear it, you can see it, you can chat amongst yourselves. We're all in it together, and I make it really fun. And I'm going to take you to Quebec, which I'm originally from, the province of Quebec. And I'm going to take you to Montreal, that's how we really say it. So I'll give you a little bit of Franglais. So it's okay if you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced. You let me know what your level is in advance. I'm going to send you out a welcome letter, and then you tell, and then we will, I'm like a museum curator. I make it work and fit to the audience that is attending. So don't worry, you won't feel like you're like late for class again. It's just have fun. And then I send you a lot of links, and I'm sort of an encyclopedia of a lot of knowledge, because I've been really practicing myself. My first language is English, but we're learning all the time. So I give you some of the slang that they're using in Quebec. And I also will bring you to France, where I have lived as well. So bring all those culture and those questions of architecture, food, gardens, you name it, I bring you there. So I look forward to meeting many of you. And for those of people who have not signed up, we still have a couple of spaces too. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. That's great. And thank you, Christine, for your patience. Christine Casey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Casey, and I'm excited about my OLLI presentations this spring, this time focusing on Shakespeare in opera. In my online class sessions, I will examine 6 operas, all based upon different Shakespeare plays. Each composer adapted Shakespeare's material in different ways. As a result, some stay close to the original story and dialogue, while others take a lot of liberties with the plot and the character developments. In these sessions, I plan to highlight Otello, Macbeth, and Falstaff, all three by Giuseppe Verdi, Benjamin Britten's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Charles Gounod's Romeo et Juliette, and Ambroise Thomas' Hamlet. I will begin each class with a background on the plays and how each one was adapted to opera, highlighting the similarities and differences in each. I'll include a brief history of the premiere production, as well as premieres here in the United States. I'll finish with a slideshow with musical excerpts of the major scenes in each opera. Whether you are new to opera or a longtime fan, these productions are sure to capture your attention. So please join me on Zoom online for this musical adventure each Monday from 3:30 to 5, beginning April 10th. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Christine. We'll turn it over to Tom Hodgson. Oh, and Tom, you're muted. Beautiful.
And there's something else on my screen here. I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, sorry about that. I'm looking for help in thinking about something I've been doing as long as I can remember. Help thinking about sports. I've played competitively 5 different sports. I've coached 5 different sports. I've coached varsity teams in 7 different occasions, both girls and boys and men and women. And I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I teach things from the point of view of philosophy, which I've been teaching for over 40 years at Yale and at Williams and at Phillips Academy for the most part, and with OLLIs since I retired to the Berkshires, both at Dartmouth and at BCC, teaching courses like applied logic and what does it mean to live a good life. And most recently, a course on democracy, We the People, Democracy on Trial with Cade Kidd. It's a wonderful experience. This time, I'm going to try a course I've taught before, but not with OLLI, in person on Tuesday mornings, but also with a HyFlex or Zoom possibility for another group of people, and maybe even a connection to some other OLLIs. That's still to be worked out. Sports plays an enormous role in our society. And even if you aren't an athlete or never watch sports and don't care about it, it certainly has an impact on your life. To take a philosophical view on something is to see what the inquiry can do to help you figure out what's real and what's important, and in particular, how it can contribute to your understanding of how to answer 4 questions. What can I know? What can I hope? How should I act? And what is a human being? We'll have discussions, we'll have readings, we'll have panelists still to be put together, or people who talk about experiences they've had in sports and where sports contribute to our lives and where they detract from it. And I think there are lots of things to talk about there. I'm particularly interested in looking at sports through the lenses of 5 different aspects of human experience, which I'll explain in the course and then set the table for our discussions: height, elevation, connection or community, understanding, and legacy. I think sports have to do with all of those, but I'll also try to imagine what a society, and there have been some, would be like, and what our species would be like without sports. What would we do instead? What would that mean? What do they add? What do they take away? Again, I'm looking for help. I don't have answers. I have lots of questions, and I have some resources that I think can help us move in the right direction together.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll turn to Llewellyn Barkin.
I'm muting myself. There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Okay, so thank you, Carol, and thank everybody for joining us today to learn more about the Zoom workshop from first to final draft and how it came about. Like many of you, when I retired after my long career, I thought it would be fun to write short stories about the jobs, the trips, and some of the people I met along the way. And I had been writing for years, but I was rusty. So I drafted one short story and I left the draft sitting on my laptop for weeks until one day I was sick of looking at it. And I decided to complete a final draft and send it out for publication, and it was accepted. And no one was more surprised than I was. I was encouraged, I kept at it. I joined a writer's group and took classes, and I found a narrative voice that felt right. in the genre I call narrative nonfiction, also known as creative nonfiction. And I was having the best time taking experiences from my life, using my imagination and crafting stories I thought others would enjoy. So I created from first to final draft to help others experience the same satisfaction. And here's what we'll be doing in this interactive workshop. Following one intro session, each participant will pick one story to work on for the next 5 weeks. It might be a story you've always wanted to tell, the one that makes your friends laugh or cry or brings back memories of times gone by, or the one about yesterday's trip to the hardware store. During the term, we'll focus on narrative nonfiction, and the beauty of this genre is that while a story may be grounded in real experience, the writer is free to shift things around using the basic elements of good storytelling. You can add a character, leave one out, change names to protect the innocent or the guilty, add a few years. It gives the writer real license to create a personal piece of work. During the term, as you are writing and editing, I'll be sharing some examples from masters of the craft, and I will review for those who are new at this and also for those who are experienced, some basic elements of storytelling, what makes a great plot, what makes an engaging cast of characters, how do you create a narrator whose voice keeps your attention, what's the best point of view, and how do you incorporate description and dialogue and find your own writing voice. During each class, participants will read sections of their stories to help other writers understand what's working for readers and how to strengthen their work. If you're new to the process of critiquing, you'll learn the protocols for effective critique, which will be useful in any future class or workshop. At our final session, we'll review sources and options for publication and ways to increase the odds that your piece might be selected, and share how all participants developed their writing habits during the 6 weeks we were together. By the end of the term, you'll have a finished piece that you can enjoy and send out for publication. Throughout the term, I'll be available to answer questions, and after our last session, I'll look forward to hearing about the success of your work. Before the sessions begin in April, I'll send along the names of a few books that I found useful. They're not required reading, but they're useful. And during the class session, during the term, I'll send out 1 or 2 stories that we can read and discuss together as a group. I hope to see everyone in April, and until then, happy writing.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Richard Maturo.
Hello.
Oops, we need to switch our spotlight. There we go.
Okay. Shakespeare was living in London when he wrote Hamlet. Virgil wrote the Aeneid in Rome. And it was in Paris that F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby, the same city where James Joyce wrote Ulysses. All of these works regularly show up on lists of the most important literary creations of the human mind. Another book that always appears on such lists, and which is considered by many to be the greatest novel ever, was not written in London or Rome or Paris, but in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. When Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick, he was living at 780 Holmes Road. It's a modest old farmhouse, which he named Arrowhead, and incidentally, where I give tours as a volunteer docent every summer. So if anyone can claim Melville as their own, we can. Now, I know that when it comes to Moby Dick, the book's reputation precedes it. People fear that it's too long, too difficult. Well, if you were assigned it as an undergraduate, or worse yet, in high school, it probably was too difficult. But trust me, at our age, it won't be difficult anymore. Besides, you'll get all the jokes. And as for length, it actually isn't even all that long. It's 1,000 pages shorter than War and Peace, and it's 100 pages shorter than 50 Shades of Grey. In fact, it's considerably shorter than the last Harry Potter book, which was too long by half. So, if you've never read it, been scared to read it, embarrassed to admit that you haven't read it, or perhaps guilty of lying about having read it when really all you did was watch the movie, this is your chance to make things right with the world. I will guide you through the reading experience of a lifetime. And of course, longtime fans are invited too. And for everyone, It will be an opportunity to join in the discussion with a lively group of peers. This will be an in-person class at BCC, Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30, beginning on April 11th. I hope to see you aboard the Pequod. Ahoy, and thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Next is Mary Ellen Verity. Oh, whoops. Sorry, Llewellyn, there we are.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, everyone. Whoops. Unmute myself. Okay, there we go. Well, I titled my course Scorn Not the Sonnet, which is not my original thought, although I certainly agree. It's the first line of a sonnet by William Wordsworth, and it's a piece of advice I wish would be heeded by many self-avowed postmodern poets, critics, teachers, and readers who reject traditional poetic forms as, well, I don't know, being too restrictive, too just kind of intended to stifle true creativity. Yet the interesting thing is that even poets who have voiced that view have themselves dabbled in sonnets frequently. Why? It's long fascinated me that the sonnet is one of the most enduring forms of poetry. People have been writing sonnets for hundreds of years. So in this course, we will explore together in discussion the attributes of sonnets that may explain why this is true. The sonnet is a poetic form that's both intensely introspective and personal, and also universally applicable to questions we all have, questions about love and death and the purpose of our lives. In my written description of this course, I ask myself, and well, presumably you, what it is about this paradoxically restrictive yet expansive form that could account for its popularity and value. I personally think that sonnets are marvelous because so much of the human condition can be explored in a mere 14 lines. Employing tight rhetoric and sparkling language, Wordsworth attempted to explain how and why this paradox is true. I'll ask you your indulgence for a mere 14 lines. He said, nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells, and students with their pensive citadels. Maids at the wheel, the weaver at his loom, sit blithe and happy. Bees that soar for bloom high as the highest peak of furnace fells will murmur by the hour in foxglove bells. In truth, the prison into which we doom ourselves no prison is, and hence for me in sundry moods 'twas pastime to be bound within the sonnet's scanty plot of ground. Pleased if some souls, for such their needs must be, who have felt the weight of too much liberty, should find brief solace there, as I have found. So for us to enjoy a sampling of sonnets and discuss what they have to offer us, we'll begin with reminders for everybody, I'm sure, about sonnet form, using arguably the greatest writer of sonnets, or at least one of the most prolific, William Shakespeare. Then in the subsequent classes, we'll explore sonnets by numerous poets from different time periods and on different themes. Sonnets that question the role of religious faith, the conundrums of love, the turmoil of war, and we'll sample sonnets that provide social commentary, that examine the sonnet itself, and that push the boundaries of traditional sonnet form. I hope that by the end of the course, you'll have your own opinion based on close analysis of these poems about whether or not the sonnet is still a relevant poetic form. I believe that artists are truly the vanguard of cultural change, so innovation and form can be wonderful, even necessary. But I think most of us in OLLI, in the Berkshires, believe that we can admire Schoenberg, but still can go to Shakespeare the last Sunday of the BSO and enjoy Beethoven's Ninth. So this class, because it's so much discussion, is in person. Sorry, I can't offer it on, well, maybe I should say I choose not to offer it on Zoom, sorry, but it's very much discussion oriented, although I certainly won't force anyone to talk if you don't want to. I will provide all the materials you need, and all work will be done during class time, although I will provide you with some supplemental readings that you might want to do on your own time. So I hope perhaps you will come and explore sonnets with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Stephen Noble is our next presenter, but he's unable to be here live on Zoom today. So we have a video that he shared.
Hi, I'm Steve Noble, and going to talk about a new course that I will be facilitating. It's called Leadership Enigma: Consequences for Our Society and for Ourselves. I've taught this course before to MBAs at Boston University, and also to a group comparable to you in Cambridge. I'm sorry I am not with you today. I'd love to be so, but I'm on a long delayed vacation in Spain. I'll be back on the 23rd. The agenda is self-explanatory, as listed on the site. I feel most of the questions about the course should be answered in that text, as well as my bio. But I'm sure there are questions that you have that are not answered, and that I could give you a better answer if it has to do with whether to take this course or not. So I'm going to offer you two options. One, you could send an email or contact Judith Weiner here, or Weiner, or you could email me and I'll get back to you in 24 hours. The email address is sjnoble7777@gmail.com. And although I probably will not be in the country, I'll be able to get back to you on it. Again, only questions that you think and I would think are relevant. Why am I doing this in person? Well, I've taught it online before, and I find that for this, in person is better because it will be interactive, and also we'll be doing some hands-on leadership self-assessments, and maybe working in groups. There will be PowerPoint mostly, and video. The question that I think is the most pressing really is, why take this course? You're not currently a leader, or some of you may still be. Many of us are retired. I'm 85%, 90% retired. But this course is not just about those aspiring to be leaders or moving up the ladder, as it was with the MBA entrepreneurial types. But I think it's relevant because we all take leadership positions, whether it's in nonprofits or boards, committees, within our community, or just within our extended families. So how are we doing? How are we perceived to be doing? The other reason is to maybe get a better grasp of what's going on nationally with leaders and the context of their leadership. I hope not to spend more than 10 minutes on Donald Trump. I don't know your persuasions, but we can talk about toxic leaders. There will be 4 sessions in the course, 90 minutes, and they'll be pretty comprehensive, pretty in-depth, and a lot of fun. I like to infuse levity and a sense of personal nature in this. So any other questions, you can email me. Look forward to meeting as many of you as can be accommodated in the class. So with that, I wish you well. Bye.
All right, thank you. Janet Forrest is leading our vegan cooking class and was unable to be here today, but she sent me some text, which I'm going to share with you. So I'm not Janet, but these are her words. Well, I should say the cooking class is in the BCC Teaching Kitchen. and it's Wednesdays in person at 5:30 p.m. So here's what Janet shared. I'm excited to be teaching my first course for OLLI at BCC, and I look forward to meeting everyone. In this 4-part class, you'll get to watch me prepare 4 different vegan meals. At the end of each class, everyone will get a taste and a copy of the recipe so they can make it at home. All the recipes are for beginner and experienced cooks alike. As I go through the steps, I'll offer ideas for altering the recipes based on preference. I'll also share a list of ingredients that are used in most of the recipes and where to find them. Our first meal will be mac and, she has in quotes, cheese. I love this recipe because it has all the savory and satisfying texture of real mac and cheese without the post-meal grogginess. I'll also demonstrate shepherd's pie, baked ziti with ricotta, and pesto and penne. My goal is to introduce you to plant-based cooking and inspire you to incorporate it into your diet a few times a month. All right, great. And now I need to go back up to my cheat sheet. Oh, next is Noelle Staples Freeman. Welcome.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Noelle Staples Freeman. My course is African Rooted Dance. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the class. It's in person on Thursdays, 10 to 11:30. The class is 1.5 hours long. For class, it would be really good to wear something loose, something you know you can move in, because we will be moving. We will also be doing a number of other things. For example, the purpose of the class is to teach African dance technique. I will be breaking down the steps that are easy to follow. The course will help you understand the movements and the communication that happens between the drummer and dancer in traditional dances from the African diaspora. We will explore movement, dance, music, and song from the African diaspora, places like West Africa, which is pretty broad, but there's a number of areas I'd like to go: Haiti, Brazil, the West Indies, and other areas. So all you need to do is bring yourself. I would like us to, you should have a really good time. We'll be moving. You know, there's been a lot of snow up here. So it will give us a chance to welcome in the spring and move. If you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing. And that's an African proverb. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. It is an in-person class. And thank you, OLLI, for having me here today. Peace.
Thank you so much. Next up is Stacy Wallach. It looks like you're still muted, Stacy. Oops.
Okay.
Oh, so you want to hit your video button one more time too, because we lost your picture. There you are. Perfect.
Oh, such a relief. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about our course. It's taught by 3 people, 2 professionals and me. I'm sure that many of you know Kate Kidd, who has been an active history and politics teacher at OLLI after a long professional career at universities, and John Dixon, who had a very distinguished career as a diplomat in a number of key countries, and me, who is, you know, an amateur. But I've taught many history courses, almost all American history courses at OLLI. And this course is completely focused on historical events where there are either 2 totally conflicting versions of what happened and what it means, or a version which we regard as factual has been suppressed, or a version of it is so ambiguous nobody knows what it means, all of which psychologically falls under the rubric of cognitive dissonance. And we talk right from the first class, which I teach, about what cognitive dissonance really means, particularly when it's applied to historical events. And we're going to cover in 6 classes a wide variety of historical events. I'm going to talk a little bit about Indigenous Americans, Native Americans, and John is going to talk about Cuba, and later about the Philippines. And you can decide for yourself whether we're an imperialistic country or not. Kate's going to talk about the Mexican War. I'm going to talk a tiny bit about the New York Times project of 1619 and its reception. And the goal in each case is to look at the varying understandings of what actually happened and what does it mean, all in the context of cognitive dissonance and its effect on people's understanding of historical events. I'll give you one very quick example. You have the young Thomas Jefferson, I think he was 33 years old, writing the Declaration of Independence, particularly the preamble, talking about all men are created equal, and we have what he called an unalienable, we would say inalienable, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, he was a slave owner, and a major slave owner. And in addition to that, he had a more than 20-year quasi-marital relationship with Sally Hemings, a slave. Now, how do you reconcile, a guy who writes brilliantly about all men are created equal and they have an unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on the one hand, with a guy who owns slaves and makes all of his wealth and his life living from slavery? Well, you could say very truthfully, you can't. They're irreconcilable. But we're going to look at that in many different historical occasions that are like that. We're going to look at how to deal with the conflict. Some are irreconcilable on the surface, and some are not. So that's what the course is all about. Each of the first 5 will be in the form of a lecture by one of the 3 of us. I'll do 2, John will do 2, Kate will do 1. And the 6th class will be a 3-way panel discussion and debate between the 3 of us, because actually the 3 of us, in putting together the course, have already discovered that we have some very different views about some of the things we'll be talking about. And we'll try to make it interactive at the end of each class so that participants can air their own views. And we like to have a lot of fun with this. There are a number of these events that are so bizarre that there's a certain amount of humor built into them, and some that are pretty sad, with no room for humor. And we welcome as many people as possible. There's no limit to how many people can sign up for this. And we look forward to seeing you all.
Thank you, Stacy. Next, we have Don Barkin.
Hi. Well, excuse me, like Stacy, what Stacy just said. My class deals a lot with unreconcilable questions, but through the medium of poetry. And most lyric poetry, short poetry, that's good, comes out of what William Yeats called a divided heart. That is, he said, out of conflicts with others, we make rhetoric, essays. Out of conflicts with ourselves, we make poetry. And we'll be reading each week 3 or 4 great poems and discussing them. It's a discussion class. I've really enjoyed, I've mostly taught 20-year-olds, and I've really loved in the last few years teaching my coevals, people of my generation. For instance, in this poem of W.B. Yeats about the Irish uprising of 1916, people who lived through years of reading or watching on TV about the IRA, how that the Irish Republican movement tore the country apart. And Yeats was part of the movement, but he was also apart from it. And the poem he wrote, Easter 1916, about the uprising that year, the Easter uprising, he wrote some famous lines. I'll read a couple. He said about these men who took over the post office in Dublin and were shortly arrested and many of them hanged by the British. He said, "Was it needless death after all? For England may keep faith, for all that is said, done and said. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. And what if excessive love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in verse, MacDonagh and McBride and Connolly and Pearse, now and in time to be, wherever green is worn, are changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born." That lovely line, a terrible beauty is born. The poem written out of profound ambivalence inside the poet. Ambivalence meaning strong on both sides, and most deep issues tug at our insides. There's a packet of poems that I've made that are available to class members electronically from OLLI, and we'll read them each week and talk about them. It's very straightforward. The poems are the wings that we fly on, and your observations, your reactions to them. And anybody is welcome who has experience or no experience with poetry. So I look forward to seeing you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Don. Next, we have Stephen Somkin.
Good afternoon. The class I'm teaching is idea, and the idea is one of the great ideas in Western world. And we're going to first Darwin and Wallach, who kind of co-jointly discovered this wonderful, magnificent idea. Then we're going to look back in time to look at the precedents of this and how the idea evolved slowly from the scholastics and the medieval mind and religious enlightenment. And we're going to look at Darwin first, and then look at the predecessors, and then some of the evidence for evolution, why it is true, why it is not a theory, it is fact. And finally, we're going to look at where evolution is going to time. The course is on Thursday afternoons. It will be 6 sessions in Great Barrington. And what I hope to do with this course, which will be largely discussion rather than monologue, introduce you, if you do not already have the feeling of the majesty of this wonderful, wonderful which permeates really all of our modern world. So thank you, and hope to see you at the class.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Hod Lipson and Melba Kerman.
Okay, thank you. I'll start and then I'm going to turn over to Hod so we can be quick. By now, everybody here has probably been aware that artificial intelligence, even though it's been around for decades, it's absolutely changing. It's gotten a lot better in the past few years. And we're starting to see AI in the headlines almost every day when people talk about the new intelligent chatbots, people talk about driverless cars. People talk about surveillance drones. They talk about, surveillance in public spaces. And so we are calling this course AI for regular people because it's not a technical course. This is very much an issues course. It's very much a discussion course. And so the goal is to basically have 5 jargon-free sessions. And we're going to do a lot of interaction. So it's going to be Thursday night, starting on April 20th at 7 p.m. East Coast time. The reason we're doing it on Zoom is because we also want to make it easy for people to attend, because Hod and I are an old married couple, and we divide our time between the Berkshires and Riverdale in the Bronx. So we know that we may not always be in place on Thursday night. I'm going to turn the floor over to Hod, and he's going to talk about basically what these 5 different classes are going to be. And I do want to just let everybody know that you do not need to know anything about computers. This is really going to be an issues discussion. There will be some explanation, just enough to understand the issues better. Okay, thanks.
Hello, everybody. So Melba didn't say, but she and I have been writing about this topic and doing all kinds of things and speaking about this in many different contexts, all the way from executives, briefings to high school kids and everything in between. And so we haven't taught OLLI before, but we've taught plenty and lots of different audiences. And we'll start off by just doing a quick demos. And you'll all get experience if you want, either to try it out yourself or through us to do things like create art, write some poetry and prose using AI at your side. You'll even be able to compose some music. If you think you can't do that, we'll show you how it's really easy and how powerful that can be. We'll even you'll get to try out some image recognition and video understanding and things like that. Once you get a taste for this, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive to understand how AI sort of makes its way into every aspect of our life. If you look around you right now, you probably cannot see any AI, but it's there, it's in the air, it's around you. It's doing all kinds of things. It's learning, it's listening. It knows if you're on this Zoom right now, whether you're paying attention or not, where you are, who you are with. It knows all of that right now. And that information is being used. So we'll open your eyes to all these different ways in which AI is around you, how it's being used, what it's doing, and all of its potential. Then we'll talk a little bit, do a deeper dive into some of the kind of interesting details. We'll start with the history. Why is this such a hard problem? We've been hearing about AI for decades. We've been fantasizing about this in sci-fi movies for decades, but we haven't seen much for decades. So what went wrong? What were the problems? A lot of drama and politics behind the scenes, a lot of technical issues. We'll talk about the drivers, from faster, cheaper, and better computers to all kinds of AI architectures like neural network and deep learning, if you may have heard this term, that have been discovered in the last couple of years that have markedly changed AI and allowed AI to do everything it's doing today. We'll talk a little bit about the geopolitics around AI, who's doing what and what the landscape looks like. We'll talk about AI ethics. What can you do? What should you do? Who should control? Who's doing what? What's legislation around this? Is it keeping up? And how can we control this, and how AI works with other AIs? And we'll talk a lot about generative AI, which is this idea of machines that are creative. So Melba mentioned ChatGPT. you might be wondering, can a machine really be creative? I mean, this sounds like an oxymoron. How can a machine be creative? But we'll talk about it. We'll demystify a lot of this and show you how it really works behind the scenes. And hopefully you'll come up with this idea that it can be creative. But the question is, how do we use it and how do we work together as creative people with these creative machines to do things we could never do before? And we'll end with the final and greatest frontier in AI, which is sentience. And the big question is, can machines have feelings? And if you don't know the answer to that, you're not alone. It's a big question. It's the biggest question of them all, but we'll try to shed some light on this very interesting topic towards the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was a quick question in the chat before we let you two go about if people are more advanced in their computer knowledge, do you think this would still be a good fit for them?
I think so. I think that there's probably people who can program some of this, but we'll be surprised to hear some of the other things. So we'll lay out a little bit of the syllabus and people can judge for themselves.
That sounds great. Okay, great. Thank you for your help. Next up, we have Naomi Spatz.
Hi, I'm Naomi Spatz, and I'm teaching not really a Berkshire Previews. This is my 7th year, and I'm still looking forward to it because you will be talking to about 14 different people. We start out on April 14th with 5 critics who will be talking about what they're looking forward to seeing this season. When you listen to them and also to the artistic directors, you'll be able to organize your summer program of what theaters you want to see. This year, I'll have a new co-host, Jeannie Woods, who is a professor of theater. And at this very moment, she is teaching theater. So we'll find out what experiences she had. The first, we are going to do this on Zoom because the overwhelming majority of people who signed up, I did not want to have all these people come and have 1 or 2 in the audience. It'll be too sad. So all the people who will be talking fascinating, not even if you're not interested in what plays they're putting on, but you'll also hear now that my internet connection is unstable. So if I blot out from time to time, I hope it will not happen during the course. We start out on April 14th with 5 critics, some from the Eagle, some online. Remarkable people because they're all sort of Renaissance people. They write, they act, and of course they criticize. And they will be able to say what they're looking for, what they have seen over the past year that's been fascinating to them. And they come with a mountain of knowledge. The next week, April, Kate McGuire will lead off from the Berkshire Theater, followed by John Soule and Steve Patterson of the Bridge Theater. It's just across the Catskill, New York, and they put on some wonderful things. The next week, April 28th, Alan Burrows of Shakespeare and Company, and discussing their season, followed by the new artistic director of Barrington Stage, Alan Paul. It may be the first times we'll all get to talk to him and listen to him and find out how he and Julie differ. Julie, who'd been there, the founder, will be coming to direct this. Look forward to seeing her. Then the following week, May 5th, Jim Frangione of Great Barrington Public Theater. When I invited him, I got an email immediately, as everyone else. So within a very short time, they said, yes, they'd like to appear because they love OLLI. Anyway, Jim, on the top of the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, teaching theater. He was doing Death of a Salesman in Morocco. I'm very curious to find out what his experience has been. And then the next person that day is Pam Tajay Jacobs-Pillow, who, if you've ever seen her, is exceedingly charming and brings great enthusiasm to the various programs and various dances that she brings to the Berkshires. And then for our wind-up on May 12th, Jonathan Loy, the absolutely charming director of opera. He directs for the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and he is the artistic director for the Berkshire Opera. and he's always a joy. And then for the last, a special treat because 2 new artistic directors for Chester. Chester's a charming little theater, little bit to the east of Lenox. And Tara Franklin and James Barry have taken over as artistic directors. Daniel Elihu Kramer, who had been running Chester for several years, is now teaching full-time, but he will be back to direct this summer. You will find absolutely delightful group of people, whether or not you like theater or not, but particularly if you like theater, come and hear about their programs. Some stuff that they're putting on, some stuff is old, has been produced before. So you'll get a good picture of what you want to do and whom you want to, what ticket you want to book this summer. So thank you and look forward to seeing you. Bye.
Thank you, Naomi. Next we have Hank Gold.
Let me unmute. There we go. Can you hear me okay? Good.
Sounds great.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be moderating the science conversations class. I've done this for the last few years. And what we use is the Tuesday edition of the New York Times has a special science section. The class meets on Friday, so everyone will have a chance to get the newspaper, look at the section, and then we just have a freewheeling discussion of articles that people find interesting. It's really an audience participation. The people who sign up have lots of good thoughts about it. The less you hear from me, the less I talk, the better off everyone is. I'll also introduce a topic that I find interesting that we'll discuss before the New York Times stuff. And if anyone, as I'll remind you when the class starts, if you have articles or thoughts about things that you would like to have discussed, I look forward to hearing your opinions, and I really think that we're going to have a good class this time. I don't have a syllabus like all of the people who preceded me have. It all depends on the topics that are being introduced in the New York Times, so I can't tell you beforehand what it's going to be. It's kind of a hit or miss sort of thing. Some of the articles are interesting, some of them are pretty repetitive, as you'll discover. But I'm open to suggestions, and I look forward to seeing familiar faces and hopefully some new faces again this time. Friday is when we meet, and I look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hank. Next up, we have Howard Arkins.
Okay. I'm unmuted, I hope. Okay, well,
Yes,
my
you're good.
course, I'm unmuted. My course is Sequencing the Human Genome, How We Got There and What It Means. In this course, we'll explore essentially the history of genetics. We'll start with the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel, and his discoveries, move on to identifying the chromosomes, DNA, and then focus on the description of DNA in the double helix, which was done by Franklin, Watson, and Crick. We'll then learn about the sequencing of the human genome, which cost about $3 billion and took over 10 years. Then where we are today, 2 decades later, sequencing the genome at about $100 to $500 and doing it in less than a day. We'll see how that's used to discover rare diseases, to treat inheritable diseases with gene therapy, and to usher in the advent of precision medicine. I'll not go into the minute detail, but give more of an overview of the scientists involved, and at times simplify the science so that hopefully any non-scientist can understand it. My basic premise is that everything has a basis in genetics. Environment does influence outcomes, but genetics has to be there. Perhaps I was influenced in medical school, my professors, Joshua Lederberg, Nobel Prize-winning geneticist, and Paul Berg, Nobel Prize-winning biochemist, who just passed away last month at age 96. But as our knowledge of genetics and the human genome increases, my premise also gains more support. So join me for the journey of sequencing the human genome, how we got there, from the father of genetics to the mother of the sex chromosomes, to the father of modern genetics, to the mother of the double helix, to the father of gene engineering, to the mother of gene editing. Now, if you don't know the names of those people that I've mentioned, take the course and you'll learn about it. You'll also learn as we go along how every discovery influenced clinical medicine and how the final discovery of sequencing the human genome influences medicine today and will influence precision health in the future with our ability to predict, prevent, and cure to advance the health and well-being of mankind. So if you're interested in genetics and not a scientist, take the course. If you're a scientist, take the course too. It's given Fridays from 1:30 to 3. It's both in person and on Zoom. So we're going to do the hybrid thing. It'll be some lectures, lots of discussion, and lots of fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Peter Samsel.
Hi, my name is Peter Samsel. I am teaching a course on modern bridge techniques and in person, because when you're learning bridge, the game of bridge, you do it best when you're actually holding cards and making decisions and interacting with the other people at the bridge table. The course is set up for beginners and also for people that have played many years ago and want to know the modern techniques. I started playing back in the late 60s, and the bidding techniques and the meanings of bids were different than they are now. So it's suited for both groups of players. The course is 8 sessions, and I follow the 8 chapters in Audrey Grant's 2 beginning bridge books. The students will receive the notes that I've written along with Audrey Grant's 2 books. The classes will be on Sunday afternoons, beginning 10 days from now on March 26 at 2:30 to 4:30, except we're going to skip Easter Sunday on April 9th. The classes meet in the room where our Pembury Bridge Club meets and has competitive games twice a week at the South Congregational Church in Pittsfield. Many people ask if they miss a class, can they still catch up and keep up with the class? The answer is yes. With the handout that I provide and the books, it is possible to catch up. And a lot of these topics we end up mentioning multiple times through the class, just because there's a lot of fairly complex meanings for different things and inferences that people can get from what is bid or played. In each class, you'll be at a table of 4 because this is a partnership game. Your partner is across the table from you. Many people have a partner that they can bring, but many people also show up without a partner, and we will be able to pair you up with somebody. We'll basically have a discussion at the, I'll make a presentation on topics at the beginning of the session, and you'll be able to then play hands based on the topics of the class. I encourage questions and discussion. That helps people learn a whole lot more. Other people may very well have the same questions you do. The hands that we will be playing in the practice sessions will be the same ones that Audrey Grant has in her books. So the students will be able to play them and then review them again later and see what Audrey is telling you should be bidding and playing. So we'll start with discussion at 2:30 each day, and then instructional hands, and then maybe we'll work into some random hands if there's time. After the 8 sessions, and it'll go till just before Memorial Day. The Bridge Club will continue to be providing opportunities for games and instruction. Right now, we have games on Mondays and Wednesdays, and my expectation is that on Sundays, we will have enough people interested that we may very well be able to continue and have competitive games on Sunday afternoons. So I encourage you to come and learn the game of bridge or relearn it and join us and have a good time. We got a lot of great people that play a lot, and we have a lot of fun with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we have, last but not least, Peter Padal.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be teaching a course devoted to Spain's greatest, most important writer, Federico Garcia, of the 20th century, that is, Federico Garcia Lorca. He's both a poet and a playwright, and I hope to make it clear in the course that you cannot separate the two, that his theater is intensely poetic and his poetry is extremely dramatic. We will have 5 meetings by Zoom. Several people who took my previous course on early Spanish theater are not able to come in person, and it worked all right, so I decided to stick with Zoom. Lorca, I guess, became that much more of a prominent figure, sadly, because of his demise, because he was murdered by Franco forces at the age of 38 in 1936. Our first class, we're using a long-standing, much beloved translation of his 3 tragedies called 3 Tragedies, New Directions paperback. It's quite available. I still have a copy I bought way back, and you can date me and the book by seeing the price, which is $1.75. It will cost you a bit more now, I'm afraid, but not all that much. We'll begin with Blood Wedding on our first class, which is the Friday, they're all 3:30, Friday, April 14th. I have to skip a week because I'm going off to Mexico. I won't. So the next second class will be the 28th of April. And that will be devoted to the second of his great tragedies, Yerma. The third class, we're going to look at a short, lesser known play that I love, and that I actually is the only one I actually performed in, called Don Perlimplin, A Love of Belisa in Her Garden. And we won't spend the hour and a half on that short play. We will also fit in poetry. We'll take a look at his early poems and learn about his multi-talent. He was a almost concert level pianist. He was an authority on Spanish flamenco. He wrote an important essay about that. So I'm going to show the influence of the flamenco form on some of his early poems. His most famous collection of poetry is called Gypsy Ballads, Romancero Gitano. And I may just try to entertain you by performing an anonymous ballad to establish what ballads are all about and what they can do. And then we'll see how Lorca used that form. His masterpiece in poetry is exceedingly long. It's in 4 parts. I decided just to look at the first part. Death of Ignacio Sanchez Mejias. The 4th class will be devoted to what's generally considered to be his masterpiece, which is the House of Bernarda Alba, which was not performed during his lifetime. He was murdered, and because of his standing with Franco and the government, it was not permitted to be performed in Spain for quite a number of years. It's had its world premiere in Buenos Aires rather than in Madrid or another city in Spain. And for the last class, it's available on YouTube, so you could watch it at any time, but there's a magnificent performance in English of The House of Bernarda Alba with Glenda Jackson and Joan Plowright. And I kind of like to suggest we all watch it together. That last class, if you'll indulge me, if you can't, fine, but the classes are an hour and a half, but the last class would be a bit longer. There's no classes right after it. The film is an hour and 41 minutes, and I would like to keep a half hour or less to discuss the performance of the play. The course will involve reading and performing some scenes, discussing and analyzing mostly, and some lecture and sharing thoughts of mine. So I look forward to meeting you on Zoom and to working together to learn more about Federico Garcia Lorca. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, Zoom is telling me things. Okay, great. So thank you to all of our instructors who spoke today. I'm just going to share a couple more class things, not the descriptions, but there's a handful of classes that are at capacity, and the instructors aren't here today to share information about them. But in case you wanted to be on the waiting list, I just wanted to share what they are. We have Tai Chi for Wellness on Tuesday nights with Mario Leone. Native Peoples of the Americas, the Ancient Ones, Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning with Lori Weinstein. Spring Wildflower Walks in South County, Wednesdays at 1:30 with Elizabeth Dillman. And the Eyes Have It Comparisons, Wednesdays at 1:30 at the Clark with Jacques Brooks. If you want to join the waiting list for these or any other classes that might be at capacity, you can send an email to ollie@berkshirecc.edu, which I'm putting in the chat right now. Thank you again to all of our instructors who were here with us today, and to Judith and Ray for helping this all run so smoothly. Thank you all for being here. If you have questions or need help with registration, you can reach out to the email I just put in the chat, or you can also give us a call. And there's our number. We'll see you on the first day of class. And one last time, let's give that registration link, berkshireolli.org//spring23. Thank you all and be well, and we'll see you soon. Take care.